The tray hit the floor, first plastic clattering against tile, the sound slicing through cafeteria chatter. Then came the sole of Alyssa's white designer sneaker. Squish. My burger flattened like roadkill. Ketchup oozed out like blood. Her foot twisted slowly, deliberately, as if grinding out a cigarette butt. She smirked and said it loud enough for everyone nearby to hear, "Now it's worthy of you." Laughter erupted around me like fireworks. Phones came out. My stomach clenched not from hunger anymore, but shame. My name is Rachel. I'm 16, and I used to love lunch at school. It was the one quiet moment where I could escape. But now it's where I became the main course for their cruelty. It all started because I brought my own lunch. Alyssa and her posse blonde waves, perfectly curated outfits, lip gloss, like armor, sat at the center of the cafeteria, like queens on a throne. I sat alone near the corner by the vending machine that always stole your dollar. That Monday, I'd brought a homemade burger wrapped in foil. My mom had gotten up early to cook it extra pickles, my favorite. I barely unwrapped it when Alyssa approached, flanked by Camilla and Jade. "What's that smell?" she asked, pinching her nose. "Oh, it's her." They didn't wait for an invitation. Camilla grabbed my burger, held it up like it was diseased, then tossed it on the ground. Jade laughed like it was comedy gold. Alyssa, ever the star, made the final move. One cruel stomp. I just sat there. I wish I could say I stood up or screamed, but I didn't. I sat frozen as everyone laughed. I couldn't breathe, let alone fight back. All I could think about was my mom's early morning effort and how it was now a puddle of meat and shame on the cafeteria floor. Then came the cherry on top. Jade pulled out her phone and snapped a picture. "Caption this," she snorted. "Lunch for a bottom feeder." I looked around. No one stepped in. Not the teachers. Not the students. Some even chuckled uncomfortably. I was on my own. Again. Later, when I locked myself in the bathroom, I stared at the mirror and saw mud-colored eyes, tear-slicked cheeks, and a smear of ketchup on my jeans. I wiped it off with toilet paper like it could erase what happened, but it wouldn't. That moment wouldn't stay in the cafeteria. It followed me into every hallway, every class, every look from someone who'd seen the picture online. I'd become a meme in my own school. But something cracked in me that day. Not like breaking, more like opening. I didn't know it yet, but that stomp wasn't the end. It was just the start. The photo spread faster than wildfire. By the time I got home that day, I had already been tagged in 3 posts, 2 memes, and a cruel TikTok reenactment titled "Trash Girl's Gourmet Meal." My inbox was a graveyard of pity messages and snide comments. Some classmates sent crying laugh emojis. Others simply commented, "Deserved." It wasn't just the burger anymore. It was my existence that they found hilarious. At school, the next day, I kept my head down. But that didn't stop the whispers. "She actually ate it off the floor," someone muttered as I passed. "I heard she begged Alyssa for another burger," another said. None of it was true. But it didn't matter. In their version, I wasn't a person, I was a joke. A walking, breathing humiliation. The bullies doubled down. Alyssa passed me in the hall and pretended to gag. Ugh, the smell again. Is that meatloaf perfume? Camilla laughed so hard she snorted. Jade just filmed it all with the back-facing camera like I wasn't even human. In bio class, someone taped a greasy McDonald's wrapper to my locker with the words, "Here's lunch for you, mutt." Each day bled into the next with the same routine isolation, mockery, and silence from adults who should have noticed. Teachers glanced but never acted. One even chuckled along when Alyssa made a snide comment during roll call. I learned to fold myself smaller to occupy less space. I stopped raising my hand. I skipped lunch. I avoided eye contact like it was poison. And worst of all, I stopped talking to my mom. She noticed, of course. Asked why my lunch came home untouched. Why my jeans had ketchup stains. Why I flinched when she said my name. I lied. I smiled and said everything was fine. Because if I told her the truth, she'd try to help. And that would only make it worse. Bullies love it when they know they've gotten under your skin. But inside I was splintering. One night I stared at the ceiling for hours, replaying every word they'd said. Every laugh. Every stomp. I imagined disappearing. Vanishing into a place where no one could recognize me, laugh at me, or throw things at me for breathing. But something deep inside wouldn't let me. A tiny ember still burned beneath the ash. That's when I whispered to the ceiling like a prayer and a promise. "You don't get to break me. Not forever." The next day I wore the same jeans from the burger incident, on purpose. I didn't wash the stain, didn't comb my hair. I walked into that school like I was wearing armor made of every insult they ever hurled. Let them laugh, let them post. Because I was finally done being their victim, I didn't explode. I didn't scream, I didn't claw back like they probably expected. Instead, I changed quietly. I stopped trying to be invisible and started paying attention to them, to their patterns, their timing, their vanity. I watched how Alyssa only acted brave with her entourage, how Camila always recorded but never instigated, how Jade, the quiet one, snickered but always kept her hands clean. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was studying. At home, I turned my broken phone into a spy tool. I cleaned the cracked lens, downloaded a sound recorder, and made a hidden folder labeled homework. Then I started collecting proof. Videos, audio, screenshots. I became my own private investigator. Every taunt in the hallway logged, every prank in class captured. Every time they called me trash girl or burger freak, I had it on tape. One day in the locker room, Camilla pulled my gym bag out of my locker and dumped its contents onto the wet floor. Everyone laughed. I didn't flinch. I just picked up my stuff, zipped the bag, and walked away. What they didn't know was that my phone hidden in my shoe had recorded the whole thing. The cruel giggles, the slurs, the sound of my journal hitting the tiles. Each clip was another brick in my case. But I wasn't going to the principal. I wasn't handing it over like a desperate plea for help. I needed something bigger, something undeniable. Then came the school's annual talent assembly, a 2-hour event in the gym where students performed music, poetry, comedy. Alyssa had already signed up to do a dance parody with Camilla and Jade. Of course. But I signed up too. Under the name RK, no one suspected a thing. I prepared a spoken word piece. I stayed up at night writing it, erasing it, rewriting it until the truth bled through every line. Not just the story of the burger, but of every insult, every humiliation, every scream I never let out. I edited my footage carefully, overlaid each video with my voice, me telling my version of events. Not sobbing, not weak, but steady. Unapologetic, real. The morning of the assembly, I looked in the mirror and didn't see the girl who'd cried over a ruined lunch. I saw someone else now. Someone sharpened by pain. Someone ready. I wore black. No makeup, no smile. They wanted to destroy me in public. Then they would watch me rise in public too. And when I walked onto that stage with the house lights dimming and the screen behind me glowing to life, I knew I was no longer the punchline. I was the truth. The gymnasium was packed. Students buzzed with excitement, phones out. Teachers perched at the edges of bleachers like silent guards. Everyone expected to laugh at Alyssa's group, maybe cheer at someone's beatboxing act. No one expected me. My name wasn't announced, just my initials, RK. The MC shrugged and said, spoken word untitled. The lights dimmed. I stepped out onto the center of the stage, mic in hand, the hush settling like fog. A few chuckles rippled through the crowd when people recognized me. Alyssa, front row with her group, smirked with arms crossed. Then I hit play. A still image of a crushed burger filled the screen behind me, and I began. They say you are what you eat. Then I must be filthy worthless stepped on. A burger beneath a brand name soul. But I've got a secret. The more you chew me up, the louder I scream from your gut. A murmur, then silence. Behind me the video flicked on. Camilla laughing while dumping my bag. Alyssa stomping on my lunch. Jade filming with cruel glee. The footage played in cold, uncaring detail. Every angle, every insult. Gasps erupted. I didn't stop. You called me a freak. A mutt. Laughed like your throat was the only place power could live. But your laughter was never strength. It was the echo of fear that someone like me could survive your world without bowing to your throne. Alyssa stood up, visibly panicking. Turn it off. What the hell is this? Teachers stirred, but no one moved fast enough. You dressed me in shame, but I wear it now like armor. You fed me humiliation, but I turned it into fuel. Camilla's face went pale as her voice blared through the speakers. Gourmet trash. The room turned. Jade looked down as if praying the bleachers would open and swallow her. You filmed my pain. Now watch the replay and tell me, does this look funny to you? The last clip played Alyssa in the hallway whispering to Camilla. She's so easy to mess with, it's not even fun anymore. Gasps. A few students stood. I took a breath. I am not your joke. I am the punchline you choke on. And today this stage is mine. Silence followed, then a single clap. Then two. Then the gym erupted. But I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I just walked off stage and left the mic humming. Behind me, Alyssa was arguing with a teacher. Camilla was crying. Jade disappeared into the crowd. The footage had been emailed to the principal too. And the school board. And the PTA. Everything they did to me, now it was evidence. I didn't need revenge. I had truth. That afternoon, the school felt different. Not just for me, but for everyone. Whispers followed them now. Not me. I walked through the halls like a ghost reborn, and all eyes that once mocked now looked ashamed, or silent, or even guilty. A few freshmen actually smiled at me in quiet solidarity. Some handed me notes in class, thank you written in shaky handwriting. But the bullies, their kingdom collapsed fast. Alyssa was called to the office during third period. Camilla and Jade followed shortly after. By the end of the day, a school-wide announcement declared that an investigation was underway for bullying, harassment, and cyber abuse. I didn't gloat. I didn't smirk. I just listened. By Monday, Alyssa had been suspended for 2 weeks. Camilla and Jade, too. Their social media accounts vanished. The @TrashburgerGirl meme account was deleted. The silence felt louder than the laughter ever had. But the biggest shift wasn't administrative. It was personal. People began seeing me differently. Teachers stopped me in the hallway and said they hadn't known it was that bad. A few apologized for not noticing. My biology teacher even asked if I'd help lead a peer support session next month. Even Alyssa's so-called best friend Paige, who hadn't participated but always watched, came up to me outside the library. She hesitated, eyes darting. "What you did up there? It was brave," she mumbled. I'm sorry I laughed. I didn't know it was real." I nodded. I didn't say it was okay, because it wasn't. But I appreciated the honesty. For the first time in months, I ate lunch in the cafeteria again. And I brought a burger, homemade, extra pickles. I sat at my same spot by the vending machine. But this time I wasn't alone. A girl named Anya asked if she could sit. Then another. Then 2 boys from my art class. They weren't trying to be heroes. They just wanted to be there. And I let them. Because even though I stood up alone, I didn't have to stay alone forever. Later that night, I sat on my bed scrolling through old texts, old photos, old comments. Part of me wanted to delete it all. But a stronger part said no. Remember this. Remember where I came from. Remember how far I climbed. And remember how it felt to be crushed so I'd never crush someone else. As I closed my phone, I caught my reflection in the dark screen. No ketchup stains. No tear tracks. Just me, Rachel. And for the first time in a long time, I saw someone who deserved to exist, not in silence, not in shame, but in truth. Life didn't become perfect after that. Some days were still heavy. Some stares still lingered too long. And a few people, mostly the ones who'd laughed the loudest, just avoided me completely. That was fine. I wasn't doing this to make friends. I was doing it so I could look in the mirror and not feel disgusted. Still, it was different now. The halls no longer felt like a gauntlet. I didn't count the steps from one class to the next, didn't flinch every time a locker slammed. And maybe most importantly, I started to find myself again. I joined a poetry club. The teacher who ran it had seen my assembly performance and invited me without hesitation. At first, I was hesitant, but then I thought, why not? Turns out my words didn't just expose pain, they could heal it. Week by week, more students showed up to those club meetings. Some had their own stories. Others just wanted to listen. I wasn't Trash Girl anymore. I was Rachel, the girl who spoke out, the one who stood up. And as for Alyssa, when her suspension ended, she came back changed. Not drastically, but quieter. Smaller. No posse, no smug walk down the hall. She sat alone, and for the first time she looked like she knew what shame felt like. One afternoon she approached me by the lockers. "Look," she said, eyes not quite meeting mine. "I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted to say, I was awful. I get that now." I didn't say anything for a long time. Just studied her. She wasn't crying. She wasn't begging. She was honest. "I don't forgive you," I said quietly. "But I believe you mean it." She nodded, looking almost relieved. That was enough for me. Because forgiveness isn't a performance. It's a choice. And I wasn't ready yet. Maybe someday. Maybe not. But I wasn't carrying her weight anymore. That was hers to hold. Months passed. Spring bloomed. My world grew lighter. One day as I was leaving school, a younger girl ran up behind me. I recognized her, quiet, always alone, same look in her eyes I once had. "Hey," she asked, breathless. "You're the girl who did the burger poem, right?" I smiled. "Yeah, that's me." She looked at me like I was something powerful. Not because I was fearless, but because I hadn't given up. Because I proved that the ones who fall hardest can still rise. I walked home that day with the sun on my back, feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Pride. Not for what had happened, but for how I answered it. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this: being humiliated doesn't make you weak, staying silent does. For a long time I thought enduring meant surviving. But survival without a voice isn't living. I didn't get revenge. I didn't hurt them back. I exposed them, yes, but more than that. I reclaimed myself. Pain isolates, but truth connects. When I finally spoke, others listened not just to the story, but to the person behind it. That changed everything. So if you're reading this and you've ever felt stomped on like your worth was trampled in front of everyone, remember, you are not the dirt beneath their shoes. You are the fire that rises through ash. Speak even if your voice shakes. Stand even if your knees do too. Because one day, someone like you will need proof that surviving is possible. And you might just become it.